Hey guys, it's David. It's about 12:45 in the morning, just having a late night and really couldn't sleep. And usually what I would do is I would flip on my phone, go to YouTube, social media, something like that, just kill time. And I decided to pick up a book that I've been meaning to get back to. Just saw it lying there, and it's called Tortured for Christ. And the way the book kind of fell back into my life was just kind of a godsend through a friend, and I wanted to read for you a little section in there. It's nothing dark and heavy in that regard. In fact, it's actually very encouraging. And I'll read it and then I'll just talk a little bit about just some thoughts about it, but it really speaks for itself. So, during the beatings, Rec, who is one of the big officers at the time, who's beating up one of these Christians, during the beatings, Rec said something to Grecu that the communists often said to Christians. He would say things like, "You know, I am God. I have the power of life and death over you. The one who is in heaven cannot decide to keep you in life. Everything depends upon me. If I wish, you live. If I wish, you are killed. I am God." So he mocked the Christian. And before I read for you what happens next, my mind goes to if I were in that situation, if you were in that situation, what would you say to that person? And we all will probably start having a fantasy of, oh, I would say this. I'll stick to that person. I'll show him where he's wrong. And that's the attitude is we're going to defend our awesomeness and we're going to stand up for who God is, or maybe just even just at the very least stand up for ourselves and just put the guy in his place and have that kind of satisfaction. And maybe we would be bold enough to do it, but at the very least we would fantasize what we would say. And what happens next is not at all what I was thinking. Says Brother Grecu, in this horrible situation, gave Rek a very interesting answer, which I heard afterward from Rek himself. He said, "You don't know what a deep thing you have said. Every caterpillar in reality is a butterfly, if it develops rightly. You have not been created to be a torturer, a man who kills. You have been created to become like God, with the life of the Godhead in your heart. Many who have been persecutors like you have come to realize, like the Apostle Paul, that it is a shameful thing for man to commit such atrocities, that they can do so much better things. So they have become partakers of the divine nature. Jesus said to the Jews of his time, "Ye are gods." Believe me, Mr. Reck, your real calling is to be godlike, to have the character of God, not a torturer. At that moment, Reck did not pay much attention to the words of his victim, as Saul of Tarsus did not pay attention to the beautiful witness of Stephen being killed in his presence. But those words worked in his heart, and Reck later understood that this was his real calling. I mean, just think about that. Here you are being tortured, mocked, beaten, humiliated, and primarily your focus is to call someone to a higher way of being. And often, I'm not even sure where I want to go with this. What I will say to this is you are called to godlikeness. And perhaps no one's ever told you, and it's easy for us to get caught in this cycle of striving and perfection, and God wants this from you, God wants that for you. At the end of the day, God wants to have fellowship with you because God wants you to be like Him. You were made to be like God. And I was even thinking about this idea that you were made to rule. It's in God's nature to make and have rulership and ownership. And I can see where this is something that's inherent in all of us. And the abusal of that rulership is something that has become something quite rampant. And what I mean by that is like beauty, art, finances. These are things that we have rule, we have power over power, and we abuse that for our own selfish gain versus something that is life giving. And I don't know, just this mentality of rather than looking at people as less than, people to be judged or challenged or to be, what if we really start looking at them saying that you are called to be like God, and we are settling for far much less when we are looking at just the material things and saying, this is it, I gotta make the best of it. It's like, no, you are called to be like God and to rule with Him and to have power and dominion. And that dominion is to bring life to people. And that is who you are called to be. And it's hard to believe that in just quiet nights where you're just trying to face for tomorrow. But you were made for so much more. I was made for so much more than just going to work and hoping for the weekend to have some kind of relief. Something that I've been thinking about lately has been Psalms 139, where it just says, you are acquainted with all my ways. You know, when I rise up, when I lie down, and just this idea that God is not only aware of the things about me, He is very well acquainted with them. The level of intimacy and fellowship that He wants to know me, and He wants me to know Him, and He wants the same for you. And it's what we're made for. And I think that's just what in this book, what I just think is so powerful is people don't act like that. To have that kind of mentality that you love somebody so dearly that as they are torturing you and humiliating you, you look beyond that and seeing, I see the butterfly in you. I see who God has called you to be, and I am destined to call that out in you because it was destined to be called out in me. And I'm beginning to realize that's where the joy comes from. It is just this glorious destiny that we have in Jesus that cannot be found on this earth. It's the glorious destiny that cannot be established by any system we can propagate. And there's nothing in this world, no material possession, no living situation, no relationship that gives you that sense of peace and that sense of identity and purpose that Jesus does like that. Because it can all be taken away. And that's what you're seeing here is these men they have everything to lose. Home, family, things. And yet their mentality and their focus is, I have nothing to lose because you can't take away Jesus from me. And it's just so encouraging to see that as things are really in turmoil in our world right now, so much is just going wrong and just so much panic and distress is happening around us. Where does your hope lie? And are you calling out the best in people? Because God, that is who God has called them to be. So I hope you guys have a good night and a good day, but be encouraged. And if you ever want to get a copy of the book, it's called Tortured for Christ. And I do want to say this real quick. I first heard about this book about 14 or 12 years ago. And the title and the cover frightened me when I first saw it. And I had a feeling I was going to read it again. And it did come back into my life. And I was like, okay, God, I think this is now the time to read it. And rather than it being something that frightens me, it has actually been very encouraging in a very odd way. So check it out. and I will see you guys later. Night.